Warning. We are not journalists. We are not players. We aren't even in a union. We simply love the Premier League and happen to live in America. We are not experts. We will say dumb shit. Thank you and welcome to Premerica.
Where are you? And I'm so sorry. Premier League can be so depressing sometimes. This is Premerica.
That's my character, apparently. I'm just a short sleeve Sally over here.
Yeah, you
From
definitely.
California.
Yeah, you definitely are playing the. Yeah, just got out of bed, but it's all good because I'm with my friends, and
Yeah.
just toss on a white tee, and my hair's all
sort of
messy,
a tortured genius.
Hey,
you know
but
what I
this-
mean?
but this is my-
type thing. Yeah,
This
it's
is
very
my
much a
look, though.
tortured
into it.
genius vibe.
But I'm the
It's like,
creative in
oh,
the group. I'm the creative in
Life
the
is
group.
so heavy.
Yeah.
3 hours later.
This is what I wear, though.
I spend all of
Yeah.
my creative energy on my projects, so I don't have time to think about what I wear. I just wear a white t-shirt.
It's just clothing, man. You know, we're born naked. You know, it doesn't. What's the fucking point? You know.
Hello and welcome back to Premerica. I'm your host, Mike Weinberg, joined by my dear friends Sam Thomas and Michael Liberman. If you don't know us, Premerica is your virtual pub for all things Premier League right here in America. We talk a little shop, talk a little shit, and keep you up to date on all things happening in the best league in the world. So grab your friends. Let's talk Prem. Boys, we are now in the international break, so things are going to get a little quiet, which honestly, after our past weekend, maybe we need a little break. For those of you who don't know, it was a rough weekend for all of our teams. And so today we are calling this not just the Premerica podcast, but as they say, our British friends would say, the Premerica Sodcast, where we are all...
nice.
I like
Nice.
They didn't
That was
know I
good.
was going to say it with that kind of accent.
That's good.
So
good.
it's a tough one. Guys, how are we feeling after this weekend? Are we looking forward to a little bit of time off? Are we like desperate for a little bit more of that,
Thinking about getting into bird watching, considering pottery maybe, and it's been it was a tough one. It was a tough one for sure.
I'm actually enjoying the break from the Prem, and tomorrow we'll be locked in to my original boys, the Italian national team, as they try to avoid what would be the continuation of the most humiliating spell in Italian football team history, which is they have not qualified for the last two World Cups, which is fucking insane. Because when they didn't qualify for the last one, it was nuts, and they didn't do it again. And now they're in a playoff where they're going to have to win two games back-to-back to qualify. They play Northern Ireland tomorrow, and then the winner of that plays the winner of Wales and somebody else. So I'll actually be locked in on the Azzurri, as they say, and hoping to avoid national embarrassment for a third consecutive World Cup campaign.
Third consecutive. That would be crazy, especially because they won in 2006, right?
Yeah.
They won in 2006. And I will say what kind of scares me, and tying this back to the Prem, is that Chiesa, who I love as a concept, but just sucks. Chiesa was deemed not fit to play by the Italian national team when I got out there, and he was like sent home. And like in Italy, there was a lot of stories about like, it's a big loss that Chiesa. I'm like, oh, that doesn't. This must not be the deepest Italy team we've seen.
Doesn't bode well. But is Michael, is your chiseled man Calafiore fit and playing for Italy?
Yeah, no, he should be roaming up and down the pitch looking like a runway model, and at the very least, he'll be fun to look at. During the game.
But that's never been the issue. The Italian national team has never been short.
Yeah. No, they're just short on talent.
Goals.
They're short on goals. It's really goals. Yeah,
they're short on goals. Well, that'll be a tough one. We're curious to see how that turns out for you, Sam. And actually, I would love to watch it. I didn't realize that. So all those playoffs for the World
they're
Cup
tomorrow.
This week.
They're electric. It's talk about high fucking
do
drama.
or die.
Amazing. Well, I know like Northern Ireland's going to be real fired up too. So should be a fun one.
I'm sure they will be. All right,
And
let's.
that's why
let's,
they pay him
let's-
the big bucks.
Yeah. I'm sure
They're also in the game.
he has a thing that just says insert X team and say they're fired up.
Right.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland is fired up.
I've really heard good things about Northern Ireland. They're really excited,
Oh, that's funny. All right, well, let's talk about
Let's get into
the topics for this week. So we're going to talk about Matchweek 31, which, like we said, is a sodcast, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we'll jump into Professor Sam's topic of the week, which is Relegation Battle, which is just very spicy. And then we will end, of course, with Stoppage Time, which we've got a new topic this week, which I'll wait to unveil until the end. But we're going to get started with a look back. And before we do so, have a quick word from our sponsors, and then we will get going.
You are cordially invited to Premerica's Premier League Wellness Retreat, where Premier League fans from all across our great land and multiple nations find an escape from the game that we all love that does not love us. We have a wonderful program for you with world-class talent to lead you in relaxing weekend of wellness, centering ourselves, and betterment, including Nottingham Forest's Sean Dyche in a sound bath meditation. All right, everyone, breathe f***ing in, breathe f***ing out. Just because your team is shit does not mean you can't f***ing learn to relax. All right? Let all the bad energy out, breathe all the good energy in, you f***ing...
All right, y'all. Let's get ready for match week. The recap.
All right, and welcome back. Look back, match week 31, and this is where each of us picks one game to highlight from the previous week, but instead of breaking it down, the game itself, the tactics, we look more 30,000-foot view, more of a, why does this matter in the greater Premerica? Now, today, we are actually breaking our rules and specifically talking about our own teams. Why, you might ask? Because, like we said, today is the Sodcast, because all of our teams got our asses beat bad, and it was rough. And we figured, why not just roll around in it a little more and take advantage of it and say, hey, we can talk about our teams because our teams look fucking terrible. So with that on our minds, Michael, City versus Arsenal in the EFL Cup. So this is not a Prem game.
I actually
Sam.
have a suggestion. I think we should go
Yes.
in order of score line. So actually, Mike Weinberg, I think you deserve the honors after a 3-0. Because when you get 3-0'd, you go first the next week in Premerica. So why don't you kick us off?
That seems fair.
Couldn't have
Did we
told
lose
me
Mike?
before. Couldn't have told
Did
me
Mike
before we
freeze?
started. Couldn't have told me before we started.
Or
Okay,
more
sure.
organic.
Sure. You know what? Whatever. Chelsea, Everton, at Everton. It was terrible. It was fucking terrible. And the Blues have been on a slide, and we went up to Everton, and of course, like usual, had 2/3 of possession, and just every time we gave the ball, the defense would break down and give up these like gorgeous curlers in the corner, and you're just like, ah. And not to mention, I was with our boy Sam and our dear friend Nada at the pub, and watched them just get their asses beat in public. It was really terrible. But you know what? The larger story here is that they're saying, hey, we're not gonna evaluate the head coach, Lemur Senior. We're gonna let him keep rolling, and all of the fans want blood. I mean, it is blood in the water. Shark. I mean, it is like, it's
Which
far
I don't
worse
think
than Maresca was.
Michael, can you remember so obviously this sport is nuts with the managers. We talked about this, but
Crazy.
can you remember a higher immediate peak followed by such a precipitous decline? Because it's not like Senior came in and everyone's like kind of unsure. He came in and crushed it for the first 2 months, and everyone's like, this guy's the next great thing. And now, like 3 weeks later, they all want his head.
I'm struggling to come up with an example like this, but it has been steep incline, steep decline.
Very steep.
And I think, it has to do with him being like a young, exciting coach, but it's also just, nothing really comes to mind. No, I think that's pretty unprecedented.
I'd like to just say one other thing.
Agreed.
I do think, I'm always one to say use one player, but like we already had a terrible defense and we lost our starting center back and our best player, Reece James. Like it was bound to happen. Our defense would look terrible, and that is
So
exactly what
I'll
happened.
translate Michael's smug sort of frown, sort of smile into words, which is, remember when Arsenal lost their 2 center backs earlier in the year, and he was using it as an excuse for why they were losing a couple games, and we were giving him shit. You're like, and we lose players all the time. Everyone lose players all the time.
And
So
and
just
by
to
the way,
translate that look
true.
into the words.
Right.
True.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
said
Sam.
that's true. It's because there is some truth to it, but it is also you can't lean on it all the way. And I agree with that. I'll take that.
So
I'll take that.
I would love to say one more thing about your match, Mike, before we will turn it over to Michael, which is, so we were at the Football Factory watching together, me, you, Nada, had a blast. Admittedly, kind of fun because we're just like in the absolute mosh pit of Chelsea fans, probably a couple hundred people down there in the basement watching it. And Chelsea's down 1-0. Then Chelsea's down 2-0. And everyone was kind of pissed. But the best moment of the entire day was in the 72nd minute. Chelsea down 2-0. Game's pretty much over. The camera pans to the bench where Tosin is starting to get warmed up.
Yeah, this is funny.
And the camera pans to the bench, and the entire Football Factory basement, oh, fuck!
loud groan, including everybody. No,
Oh, not Tosin, anything but that.
Literally
it was a louder
unison.
groan than when any of the 3 goals went in. I shit you not.
And
Well,
that is so powerful. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
in its weird own way.
Let's look at the bright side of things. You know, Senior is doing a lot of drawing on the sidelines. It seems like he's been doodling a ton and working on his potential next career as an artist. So that's all good stuff.
There are so many memes worthy of that, of like him doing that, and then they show what is he actually drawing, and it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I haven't seen those yet. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's a rough go for the boys, but we move on and we come back and we're as excited as ever in 2 weeks. Michael, tell us about the Fizzy Cup.
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was pretty much a stalemate to start. Didn't look like Arsenal was doing much. And then kind of in the second half, things started to shift and City started pushing. And essentially a Kepa mistake and then a header in by one of their fullbacks, and 1-0, quickly 2-0 by the same fullback, and depression was on. I mean, it was a pretty rough performance, honestly. We did not look good. And for the first major trophy of the year, it's not exactly the performance you're looking for, especially after everyone's talking about, but this could be the leaping, boost that you need to kind of keep it going and da-da-da-da-da. But you know what? It's just one of those things where you just kind of got to shake it off, take the L, and hopefully after a nice international break, we can get back to our winning form. But man, it was rough.
So no heroics from Messi 2.0 Max Dowman. He didn't come in and save the day.
He didn't even get on the pitch.
Oh, a bench.
He wasn't even on the pitch. No, he was. I mean, the kid is 16 years old, so
he needs the rest, right? He doesn't have the energy.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's growing,
Two things I noticed from this match. One was Pep's celebration after the second goal. It was actually so absurd he got a yellow card. I'm not sure if he deserved it or not, but I think everyone was just like, wait, we don't see you do that.
You've won a lot of these things. What are you freaking out about? Yeah.
But that's why I thought it was interesting, is because it is clear to him that it still matters to him a ton with Arteta and him and the student and the teacher and the master and the Padawan. And I think in a season, and honestly in a year and a half that has been overall quite disappointing for Pep, this one definitely mattered a lot to him, because he can still kind of take the dick out and be like, yeah, but I still win the trophies for now, right? At least for 2 more months until the Prem season is over. His celebration was beyond what I would expect for a Fizzy Cup title. And he was actually quite emotional after it too, kind of watching the players. So it was interesting. We give the Fizzy Cup a lot of shit, but it is a major trophy. And
it's the 4th of 4, but yeah, it's definitely a major trophy. Yeah.
And then my second observation, which is more of a question, is I'll start with you, Michael. What impact, if any, does this match result have on the next 2 months of the Premier League season?
I don't know if it does. I'll be honest with you. Either way, like if we would have won it or we would have lost it, I think it kind of like lives in its own. It's kind of like the FA Cup in that way, where it's its own track. It would be obviously better to have won it. I think it would have probably given a little boost and got the monkey off the back of the team of like winning a trophy and all that. But I don't really think it will be like a determining factor of how the future form goes. You can make an argument either way that it's like, yeah, well now they've tasted defeat, or now it's like going to motivate them more. So like, I don't think it really affects it one way or another.
Yeah. Mike, thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like,
Okay. I don't know. Fuck you, dude.
strong take.
There's
no,
been a couple of just real strong takes so far in this pod.
It's the sad cast, baby.
Hot takes only. A lot of I don't knows and a lot of, it means a lot to Northern Ireland as well.
yeah, of course.
It does mean a lot to Northern Ireland. Yeah.
You don't even know, Sam. No, I don't. I think this is like the test when they come back, but Arsenal has not been as good in the last few weeks as they had been, I think, earlier in the season, but they're still pulling out results. City has not looked great. So this was the first time that we really kind of saw that come into effect. And I mean, this comes down to, as you guys said, you know this better than me, at the end of the year, can you mentally keep it going? Can you just stay strong through the last, 8-10 games of the season? And I don't know. I mean, can Arteta get it done? I think that was the big question. But
I mean, that's the question all season.
But 9 points, right? Like we're at 9 right now. Is that right? That's a
it's
tough.
It's been the question all season. It doesn't help that he didn't win the first opportunity of the major trophy, but I agree with you, Michael. Like it means absolutely nothing, because it just the next match is going to happen, and either Arsenal's going to lose. That their narrative will be created after the next match, as it always is in this sport.
Yeah,
Arsenal's going to win their next match, and they're going to be like, they were just so motivated from the FA Cup loss that they,
for sure,
or they're going to lose the next match and be like that EFL Cup loss was what triggered the whole downfall season. It doesn't fucking matter. I really agree. These cup competitions, I like your phrasing. It is a separate track, and it's an important track. Like that was actually the other thing I was going to say is I watched the highlights yesterday of the match, and like there is something different when you just see the teams walking out into Wembley and it's like 90,000 people, half red, half blue. And it's just like, yeah, they really want to fucking win that match.
Of course.
So it matters. And then the match ends, and I genuinely think it doesn't matter anymore for the future. So,
yeah.
Cool.
All
right, Sam. Hit us with your Liverpool Brighton.
I was wondering if I talked enough about your guys' matches, we would forget this.
Can confirm you did not.
This one was an interesting one because in the build up to the match and during the match, at no point did I think we were going to win, and that's very rare. And I would think the one thing I would want to call out is because in the midweek, Liverpool had their best performance of the year, a 4-0 win at home against Galatasaray to advance the Elite Eight of the Champions League. And in his post-match presser, Arnie Slot, our boy, who both of you guys have actually talked before about how like something about his Dutchness just sometimes makes him say things too directly that like kind of like are better left up in the old noggin.
Mm-hmm.
In his post-match presser, he said verbatim to the fans of Liverpool, don't expect this performance again. And especially don't expect it in less than 3 days when we go to Brighton, because it's going to be a virtually impossible match for us to play because of the short turnaround, and I expect our team to be really tired.
He's
Keep
like,
your head,
like,
keep
what
it
are we doing, buddy?
Keep in your head, buddy. What are we doing?
He's like, what did it? What did he looks? He looks at it. He's like, what did that? Was that English? Is that correct? You're like,
did that come out of my mouth? And as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is kind of the issue with him. Is like,
yeah,
that's not wrong. Like, it's not wrong. They played their absolute hearts out Wednesday night, and then they have the first match on Saturday, which is bullshit. That's bullshit scheduling. That just is. But
agreed.
Your job as a coach and as a manager is to convince players either
they're not tired,
that they're not tired,
right?
and otherwise they're gonna be tired. And so they play the whole match tired, and then let alone the fact that Ekitike got hurt in the second minute, which once that happened, then it was absolutely over. But yeah, it was just it was kind of a microcosm of the slot stuff.
Yeah.
So-
I just say, listen, great effort by the boys today. We go again in 3 days. This is the job. Say something like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not so hard.
Right. It's not like there isn't a precedent of that exact line being said before. And it's, it's interesting because Klopp would also complain a lot about the fixtures and the fixture congestion. But you knew that behind the scenes in the dressing room to them, the message was, this is the match, so you better fucking play your hearts out or else, we're not, it's not going to happen. Slot, it's clear that the message to the media is also probably to his players like, hey, you understand you guys might be tired on Saturday morning. This is a tough draw.
You
It's
okay,
like,
buddy? You okay?
it's
You
like,
okay? You know what? You take them time off.
And
Don't
Klopp-
you know what? At home, we're good. Don't worry, you're okay.
We're good. Copley had a smile while he was doing it too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was kind of jokey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is he gone?
So
Is
yeah.
he gone, Sam? Sam, when's he gone? When's he gone? What do we got? Where's the
I'm
leash?
not waffling from my past waffle, which is the frowny face waffle. I'm still frowny face waffle.
Is he? So he's gone.
Yeah, he's been.
I think he's gone at the end of the season.
I think, but you think they'll let him ride it out?
Liverpool's classy.
Liverpool does not fire managers.
Liverpool's classy. Yeah. Liverpool's not pulling the Forest where it's like, God,
right.
you're fired, you're fired, you're fired.
Right, or the Chelsea, but yeah, we'll move on. Okay,
so we only hold on. We only do we only do one a year.
Mike, these are now the last 7 matches. 7 matches. Last 7 matches are going to be different now because everybody else is winning games except for our 2 clubs. So now we are officially competing.
I know. Yeah, Sam and I were talking about on this Monday night. It was like, unfortunately, we are going to be duking it out for that last spot. Now, I will say this. At least we are duking it out for Champions League. So that is ideal for our teams. And next, we're going to get into Professor Sam's topic of the week.
Grab your beer and grab your wine. Come on, all, it's Professor time.
Which is Relegation Battle. Now, of course, this segment is where our in-house professor, Premerica tenured Samuel Thomas, uses his academic wit to break down a different topic each episode. And funny guy Michael will do funny guy things, as he always does. I can always count on that. And today we're talking Relegation Battle because it is one of the most fascinating times for relegation in the sport. And we're going to break it down. Sam, please take it from here.
Yes, I love it. And I love that as soon as you introduce the Professor Sam's topic, Michael just instinctively crosses his arms and leans back in his chair. Like very much just like the bad kid at school. Like, yeah, prove it, Professor.
Back at class. Spitballs. You know what I mean? Hey, Mr. Thomas, Like, yeah, that's
yes, it's exactly right. So Professor topic of the week.
Get it. Go ahead and get the collar.
I got this. I got the fresh cut yesterday for this, and we're feeling good. So this is a epic year because there is truly a relegation scrap. Does not happen often. Certainly does not usually happen this late into the season where there is actually legitimately 3. You could argue 4, but for today we'll say 3 teams that might get the last relegation spot. So I figured a cool way to do this was actually kind of dive in on this profile by profile because relegation means everything to some clubs, but also you'll see that some clubs have found creative ways to actually have it not mean as much. And we have a couple examples in this relegation scrap that will be perfectly illustrative of that because as a professor, I know how important illustrating is with examples to some of our students otherwise.
Oh my God. I'm a visual learner.
It's somewhat
I'm a visual learner.
It's somewhat analogous to the sadcast, sodcast right there. Illustrative illustrates. Love it, Sam. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I like big words.
Yes. So let's get into it with a small word, a 1-syllable word. Wolves.
Oh, I know
Wolves.
that word.
So we're going to go from 20 up to 19, 18, 17, 16. We're going to stop there. I know, Michael, you're thinking, are we going to do 15? No, we're just going to stop there. So 20, last place right now is Wolves. Profile of Wolves, as we all know, started the season historically bad, then have won and had some decent results, but are still I think it's like 99.9% chance of getting relegated. So they're going to get relegated. So instead, I wanted to kind of like wind them back because Wolves has actually been in the Prem since the 17-18 season. So about 8 years, when they finished top of the championship to get promoted. Since then, I'm just going to read you out these numbers. This is their finishing position since then. 7-7. Interestingly enough, they came up and went 7-7 when they got promoted up. 7-7, 13-10, 13-14, 16-20. So pretty amazing start, then pretty stable in the mid, and then 13, 14, 16, and now this year. So it gives you this sense it has been coming. Interestingly enough, for Wolves in 2012, they did what's called the double drop, which is they got relegated from the Premier League, and then that very next season they got relegated to League One. They spent a couple years in League One before getting back up, and then 17-18 back promoted to the Prem for the last 8 years. So for me, I see the trajectory trend of pretty damn good 7-8 year spell here. It's been trending in this direction, and this was the year where it all came to a head. But I don't know. Anything different from you guys?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And it just shows how hard it is to kind of be able to sustain that. Like they started off really, really strong, and
yeah, 7-7 is
you know,
incredible, honestly. Yeah.
Incredible. And they had some really fun players over the years that have gone all over, but it's just continuing to be able to recycle that talent that's constantly being bought from you, and like they're not able to sustain. So I kind of think they probably went into the season kind of knowing that likely they're going to be dropping down. So I would imagine this doesn't come as a huge shock to their fans.
Yeah, it's a good point too about the players, because they've had, Wolves have shipped some players to top clubs, like good players. Like Cunha's with United, Jota was with Liverpool, and like they've had. It does kind of see, and even like now they've got this guy Mateus Mane, who like at Liverpool actually is maybe looking as a solid replacement, and like it's so you got good players. It just this year kind of felt like
not enough.
They sort of
just wasn't
they didn't
enough.
really retool enough, and just wasn't quite enough, and it was inevitable.
I think it's the player. I think players shipping the players, and they just didn't have enough in the tank. Where some of these clubs seem to keep turning them out, but it felt like Wolves just sort of over the last 2 years. Just
right.
Sort of,
I mean,
yeah,
right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think the last thing I'll say on Wolves is that because they did less than 15 years ago do the double drop, there will be fans in Molineux who are terrified of that. But gut feel, will Wolves go down this year? Gut feel, how many years until they're back in the Prem?
I think it'll be like 2 or 3. I don't think they're going to jump up, down, and go back up. I think it'll take a season or 2 for them to kind of get their, luster back, if you will. But I don't think they'll be doing the double.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's funny, Michael, you just said the this move, because the 19th place team, Burnley, is what we call a yo-yo club. Michael, would you like to tell to the class what a yo-yo club is?
Their model is that they are consistently moving basically from the championship up to the Premier League and back down. They're good enough to consistently be getting into the playoffs or winning the championship, but they're not really good enough to stay in the Premier League. And that's sort of the sweet spot for them. And so the goal is essentially like every couple years, move up, maybe stay a season or 2 in the Premier League, and then drop back down, retool, and then back and forth and back and forth. And so they're honestly, Burnley is almost like the poster child for like a yo-yo club in my mind. As I feel like they do it almost better than anybody else.
Yeah, so it's funny, they've actually, this is remarkable, but they've actually done it perfectly in sync with the yo-yo for now the last 6 seasons. So
wow,
21-22 they got relegated. Very next season they got promoted. Very next season they got relegated. Very next season they got promoted. Very next season, this season, they're going to get relegated. That's insane. And so there's a bunch of hidden financial incentives that when we have more time we can dig into behind this. But basically, like, you get a boost for being promoted into the Premier League, and then you also get like the shared revenue of like the TV contracts and everything as a Premier League side. And then when you go down to the championship, you get what's called a parachute payment, which is you get actually a payment from the Premier League to your club to kind of like help ease the fall, like a parachute down to the championship. And so basically Burnley just combines those payments to basically put themselves in a good position to get back up and then drop back down. Like last year, dude, in the championship, I think they finished with over 100 points.
Yeah.
Like they were like one of the best. And so dominant, didn't have to worry about playoffs or anything, just go back up. And then this year in the Prem, like they've kind of never threatened to get not relegated. But
No.
interestingly enough, here's a crazy thought, which shows you the yo-yo. Has anyone talked about them at all? It's just
No.
like out of the club, dude. There's nothing. There's no drama with the club. There's no nothing. There's no peep of anything out of the club, which makes me think that everyone is fully aligned to this strategy.
Totally. And it works. It works for them. I don't know.
Is that, can you imagine that fan base too? Like, it's like every year, like, we won. And then next year, they're like, we are so bad. We're back in. Like, that's such a different, like, but like, what, again, in what American sport do we have any kind of real feeling like that? And what other team has that kind of, like, how does the fan base feel? I would love to talk to a Burnley fan and find out.
Yeah.
Like,
I would love that too.
What's it like?
Because they're realistically, there's no aspirations of winning the Premier League, right? But like they win a championship every other year. Like if you kind of think about it that way, it's like that's kind of exciting. That's kind of fun. They have a parade. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
could be worse.
They have a parade.
They definitely keep things interesting.
Yes,
it would be good. We have to find a Burnley fan. Well, next time we're walking around the streets of one of our cities, we should just stop the next Burnley fan we see and just ask them, what are your thoughts on the yo-yo model? And try to not get punched in the face. All right, then 18th is, so now we're going to go 18th, 17th, 16th, which are the three teams that are fighting it out to avoid being the last team to get relegated. Wolves are going down, Burnley's going down. These three teams, West Ham, Forest, and Spurs, one of them is going down. Spurs. But we'll get to that. West Ham. West Ham's a little bit different than both the other clubs I just mentioned in Wolves and Burnley in that West Ham has been a Premier League mainstay, I would say, for all of our, Michael, certainly for all of our Premier League fandom.
Totally.
They've been in the Premier League for the last 14 seasons. In 2021 and 2022, they finished 6th and 7th. So they were actually like very good.
Yeah.
The average finishing position for the last 14 seasons in the Prem is 10th. So they've never really been this kind of team, but then last year they finished 14th. And then this year they're in a relegation scrap. So it's an interesting one because before this season, I would have kind of put them in one of those happy middle teams of just like kind of always in the middle and never really at risk. But now they're at risk.
Right. And I think it's a perfect example of why being one of those happy middle teams is it's so hard. Like your Crystal Palaces, your Brightons of the world, where like basically they're perfectly good at staying in the Premier League because they know that their top talent is going to get taken by the top teams or top teams around the world, but they're really, really good at recruiting and they're really, really good at scouting. And so they're able to constantly be replenishing, which is why like your Crystal Palaces of the world are actually extremely impressive. Like the model of just being able to kind of perfectly stay in that middle. And for a long time, that was West Ham, right? I mean, they had players like Declan Rice. They had tons of really, really, incredible players over the years, but it just shows how hard that is to actually sustain. And I think that essentially just like a little bit of mismanagement and you could be in a relegation scrap.
Yeah, I would agree. The only nuance I would say is that I don't think actually West Ham and Palace, I think up until the last so Declan Rice is one and then Eze is the other for Palace. But like actually both West Ham and Palace keep their players decently well. I would actually argue that the way you stay in the middle is you don't get too good of players or too shitty of players. You just have a team of 11 players that are pretty much exactly Premier League players. And then like a couple of them will bubble up and then get taken. But for the most part, the success is from a Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen is a damn good Premier League player. He's just not quite good enough to go to a top 6 club, but he's certainly good enough to keep your team middle of the Prem.
Yeah.
It's almost like Zaha was like a perfect example of that too, where he's
Zaha
like
is the perfect example.
Zaha was perfect because he was super exciting, fun to watch, like one of the better players in the Premier League, but his timing never quite worked out where he was going to ultimately go somewhere else. And he kind of was like
correct me if I'm wrong, but West Ham is also a very big club. Like they have a giant stadium and they have a huge. I mean, I think of the biggest teams, they have the largest stadium. I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. West Ham. That's what they're. I mean, they're a Premier League mainstay. They play at the London Stadium. That was the former Olympic Stadium. Like they're very much a mainstay.
Yeah.
They're blowing bubbles.
Yes.
Blowing pretty
What was that?
bubbles.
Green Street Hooligans?
Green
Is that the
Street
name of it?
Hooligans.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie.
With Frodo as a
With
big
Elijah.
football fan.
Yes.
Yeah, the casting was debatable, but the movie's actually quite solid. So that's West Ham. All right, so two more. Forest. So Forest is interesting because they, unlike West Ham, Michael, they've spent our entire Premier League fandom in League One, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Championship. And then they got promoted to the Prem in 22-23. So they've only been up for 3-4 years. They finished 16th and 17th in their first 2 seasons. So right, relegation scrapping. And then last year, out of literally nowhere, they had the best year in the modern era of Nottingham Forest. They finished in 7th. They narrowly missed out on Champions League football. They lost the threatened for sure. They lost the FA Cup final, FA Cup semifinal. We were there with Michael. What was it, semifinal?
Yeah, we were literally there. They lost to City. Yeah.
They lost us in the FA Cup semifinal. Absolutely historic season. And then, as we know, we've talked about in the Prem, or on the pod, 4 manager changes 1 season later. All of a sudden, they're in a relegation scrap.
That makes that I still cannot fathom how your team does that well. Has like 3 losses in the beginning of the year. You fire the guy that did the greatest thing he's ever done for your club. You get rid of him, and you're just in this constant mayhem for the rest of the year. It just seems ludicrous. But I guess that's the point.
It's a great example of when egos get in the way of success, frankly. I think so.
That's true.
You know, Nottingham Forest have had a really rich history. I believe back in like the 80s, they actually won like one of England's few European titles. Like they were like one of the better clubs in world football at a point in time. And, you know, again, it's just really hard to sustain that.
Now we finish with the one that I think we can keep this fun and light, and there's not a whole hell of a lot of background, but the third team that actually very well might go down is Spurs.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to go ahead and give the floor to you first, Michael, and just, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. It really, really does. I mean, you know, it's just, they've been mismanaged for years, and they've been, you know, bigger than the britches for a long time now. And again, it's just a perfect example of this can happen to any club. If you're misrun and you're not, you know, bringing in the right level of talent, especially for a team that is like a quote unquote traditional top 6 team, like you can get relegated too. So yeah, I think it's just a perfect example of how to not run a club.
I mean, but let's talk about that for a second, because yes, I understand you also look at the other big clubs and you could make arguments that while they are mismanaged, they are winning, and there are years where they do come up and they do win, like a Chelsea, like they do figure it out and then they fall apart. But like you're talking about a club that's supposed to be that big that is literally completely falling down and finished 16th last year, and now is really, really fighting to survive. I mean, with the amount of money that they're spending is still light years ahead of these other teams that are down there. I mean, we are 2, 3, 4 times that multiple. So like, it can't just be big team. Oh, what are they like? This is like catastrophic collapse of epic proportions in the sense that it's like, it doesn't even make sense. Like you almost can't. And I will say the one thing I will say to that though is 1 or 2 injuries. Like we said earlier in the show. Yeah, UK for sure make excuses, but Tottenham has been like decimated the entire year, so I do give them some credit there.
Yeah, one or 2 injuries is why you finish from 2nd to 5th, or you know, like 5th to 8th.
But this has been
the crazy thing is, I'm looking at the foot mob like trajectory of their finishing positions, right? And it goes back to like 2010. 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 4, 8, 5, 17, 17.
Right. They just dropped off the face of the earth.
It is a fucking precipitous collapse. And it is a little bit like it's a bunch of bad moves lined up over the last several years, but then it does kind of feel like there was just like a breaking point that was the first 17.
Is it a house of cards? Is it that kind of idea where it's like you're built on this thing and they were kind of doing it, but then all of a sudden
the book out of Spurs for the last 5, 6, 7 years, even since like Pochettino left, he was just like, I can't win at this club. This club doesn't actually want to win. And then there was always kind of that undercurrent. Then a couple of years ago when he left, then they tried to replace with a bunch like that, you know, then they had Conte come in. They've had like 7 managers in the last 5.5 seasons, maybe even more if I'm counting this. And then just the disaster of firing and Thomas Frank didn't work. This Igor Tudor guy, just poor efforts all around. So it is a little bit House of Cardsy, but it's kind of crazy. They finished 17th last year.
Yeah.
They're currently in 17th this year. If they go down, they deserve it. And they very well might, because we had to finish this whole segment with my favorite definition ever. Last weekend was a relegation 6-pointer, which means they were playing Forest. So 2 teams in the relegation scrap playing each other. Usually these games are 0-0, 1-0, maybe with a late goal. Forest kicked their ass and won 3-0 at Tottenham, at Spurs.
Tottenham. It's bad. It's a really bad look.
Really, 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 really
It's a
bad.
must win.
Yeah.
It's a must win, and it's certainly not an 0-3.
No,
it can't be an 0-3.
It's a must win, and if you lose by 1. You don't get your ass handed to you at
Also,
all.
not playing a team that's known for scoring goals. That is not a team that is scoring at all.
No,
or the team that can't score.
You're starting to argue that they are, so not argue, statistically they've been the worst team in the Premier League over the last 2.5 months.
Absolutely, not even a question.
And you're starting to get to the point where it's like they might go down. And if they do, they will deserve it.
Yes.
Totally. It's not a fluke at this point.
So if we're betting men today, and you had to put a bet down, you said, I'm putting my money on the table. Do you think it happens, or do you think it doesn't?
I think they just squeak it out. I really do. I think they end up staying in the Prem. I think they'll get 17th, but by a point, and it'll be just avoiding disaster.
Sam? Okay, I'll go. I think they will either get in on goal differential, which I think is possible. I actually think they might go down. That would be my bet.
Well,
because they have
that's not what you're asking. Will they go down or not? Gun to your head. I think they might. It's not a good
gun to my head. Yeah, fine. Gun to my head. Gun to my head. Gun to my head. Yes.
Wow.
I'm voting for it.
Really?
Someone's got to say it. It's the reason why you won't is if you looked at them objectively against how bad the other teams have been. They have been worse, and they are losing to the teams they have to beat. So if you look at it from that perspective, the only reason you're saying no is because you're still kind of giving them that big club benefit of the doubt, the quality, but they have looked worse than these other teams through this point of the year. And they do not seem to have any hope of plugging the hole. I don't see where they're going to fix it.
They're going to have to come up
difficult games too.
At least 2 or 3 wins out of the remaining fixtures in order to stay up in my mind. And
I don't say it.
I'm not sure.
I don't say it.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Sam, final take.
I think it's a purely professor mathematical take, but I think they stay up. Just because 2 teams will stay up and 1 team will go down, and I think it's all you can make an argument for all 3. I think they stay up.
Well, we surely will find out, won't we? On a later episode of Premerica, we can revisit this. But let's get us to our second commercial break. Thank you, Professor Sam, for that. And we will be right back with our final segment, Stoppage Time.
There's so much to love about the Premier League Spa and Wellness Retreat, including group therapy with Man City manager Pep Guardiola. Okay, thanks for everyone for coming. And we are here to talk about our troubles. Me, not many troubles. I win 6 Premier League titles, but your teams, maybe not so much. So we talk through these different initiatives as a group, and we talk through them together. Again, this is not for me. This is for you. I am fine. I am great. But for you, not so great. So. And this week, we are running a 20% off special for all Arsenal and Liverpool fans for their tragic losses this past weekend. Yikes! And as always, Wolves fans get in for free. You poor guys.
Everybody get up, it's stoppage time, y'all. It's time to learn some stuff now. Get into the stoppage time.
Welcome back to our final segment of the episode, Stoppage Time, where each of us has 15 seconds to answer this week's topic. And if you go over 15 seconds, you will be muted. And today I thought we'd end on a little fun one. Of course, there was some breaking news yesterday that Mo Salah is not returning to Liverpool after nine seasons. And as the, one of the two anchors of that team through their two title winning seasons. So definitely a big change. And they got, yep. And so the question today, boys, is where is Mo gonna go? Let me get a little Mo gonna go segment tag going there.
I think.
If you had to take a quick guess of where you think he's gonna be next year, which sad league could he be in? Or maybe a fun league. I don't know. Who wants to go first?
I think Sam should do the honors, frankly.
No. I'll go last.
No. Fuck you. I will go last. Miguel.
Okay, well,
Miguel will go first.
You know what? Just for the sake of it's something different, I think he might end up in the MLS. I could see him going to like an LAFC or, I don't know, the Minnesota Wild or something, Minnesota, whatever their team is. Yeah, just for the sake of fun.
I'm gonna go Serie A. I would think it'd be really cool to like try and use him as a little boon to the Italian league and see if maybe that sort of springs up something fun. And because I don't want to say Saudi because I just don't think that would be as fun, but it would make sense. Sam.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to another European league. I think either Italian or Spanish, but Italy gives him more options. He's not ready for Saudi yet. He's not ready for MLS yet. But I'm going to take now 15 more seconds and give it emotional because he's the greatest player in my sports fan of Liverpool history. So I'm going to take 15 more seconds. Emotionally, I just want Mo to be happy because for what he's done to the club, for what he's done for all of us, I want him wherever he goes to know that home is where the heart is. And his heart will always be Liverpool.
That's very sweet. Yeah, he seems like a lovely dude, to be honest.
Yes, that is yes. You know what? That is a kind word. You know what? Let's end on that positive sentiment. We don't need to continue to roll around. For today's Sodcast, we end on a light note, which is a wonderful way to go out for this week. So we've got international break. We've got some Champions League games coming up. I think before we even get back into the Prem, we've got a minute. So we will be back next week with a new look episode to deal with that sad break that we have coming up in Prem.
And hopefully Italy is still alive. Come on, Italy.
We'll revisit whether Italy.
But it also means lots of Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Just in case you guys forgot. All right. Until next time, thank you for joining. We will see you soon. Have a wonderful week, Premericans, and ciao.